verse of the day is Proverbs 16:1, and it says, "We can make our own plans, but the Lord gives the right answer." Today's verse highlights how much you trust God. And also, I think, exposes where you're at in your walk with God, because the beginning of the verse says, we make our own plans, which we make our own plans 24/7. But hearing the right answer is all dependent on what your time with God looks like, on what your focus looks like every day, on how much you cultivate that quiet time with God and keeping your perspective in alignment with His. Because as much as you make your plans, and yes, the Lord does give you the right answer, but if you're distracted doing other things, or your priorities aren't in order and you don't prioritize God, you're not going to hear clearly. You're not going to hear the right answer, which is why today's verse can go in two different directions. But it speaks volumes because they're both true. We do make our own plans. God always will reveal the right answer. But in order for them to connect, in order for our plans to connect with God's answer, we have to bring Him in the middle, right? We have to bring Him into it. So that's why it's so important to develop relationship, to show up every day, and why I stress the importance of starting your quiet time with journaling and giving God your heart, because giving God your heart is the same thing as giving Him your plans, right? Sharing your plans with God. And if you have that perspective of, oh, if I share everything with God, I'm in the perfect place, because that means He's going to weed out the things that don't align with His plan and give me the things that do. Again, it goes back to how much do you trust God? How much do you trust God with all of your plans, that if they happen or not, you're gonna be okay because you trust that God always gives you His best. Going back to how the more you spend time with God, the more you're gonna hear the right answer. God revealed to me, I don't know how long ago, but I was basically like, okay, what does it take to hear you more clearly, God? How do I make sure I'm hearing you right? How do I develop my ability to hear you more clearly on a daily basis? And He said, my presence is in the present moment. And so that's why the habit of spending quiet time with God and having no interruptions is so important, because it teaches you how to be present with Him. It's not about works or performance, never will be about how many scriptures you can memorize, or how many people you can serve, or how many pages in your journal you write. It's all about taking that time to be present with Him, because it's in His presence, in the present moment, that His presence is felt, that His presence is heard, that you start to hear Him more clearly, because He speaks in the present moment. He'll speak about the future and about the past, but ultimately when He talks, it's right now. It's right now, which is why a lot of times it's not that God's not talking, it's that we're not listening, because we're too distracted by jobs, people, places, things, scheduling, and our inability to prioritize God hinders our ability to hear Him clearly, hinders our ability to be present with Him in our everyday moments, because our focus is off. Our priorities are off. But if God is our priority and God is our focus, we're going to see Him everywhere. You're going to start to see Him at your job. You're going to start to hear Him in the things you're doing at work. You're going to start to hear Him at the gym. You're going to hear Him when you're driving, when you're doing your makeup, when you're doing the dishes, when you're cooking. The point is to be able to do life with God, hear Him, talk to Him, collaborate with Him all day long. And that habit is developed in the quiet time that you spend with God, in that everyday habit of showing up and reading your Bible and journaling and giving God all of your plans. The more you do that, the more the Lord will give you the right answer about everything. It's kind of really freeing in my perspective, like my ability to give God anything and everything that I could ever want or need help with, put it on paper, and I give Him all of it. And it's almost like, okay, I've done my part. I'm giving my heart, my plans to God. So now it's the God show. Now God gets to do His part and give me what He wants to give me and weed out the things that aren't good for me or I'm not ready for yet. It's a win-win. There's so much that we don't know, right? There's so many times in our life where we make plans. I used to think I wanted to be so many different things in life and do so many different jobs. But because of so many no's, it's led me to where I'm at right now, which is ultimately the best version of me, or the path that God had for me. So I can be okay with all of those no's because it gave me my ultimate yes. And that's what we want, right? We want to find that ultimate yes. We want to find the yes that God has for us, that God created us to live out. And in order to find that ultimate yes, it's in the quiet time with God. It's developing relationship, giving him your heart, telling him all of your plans, while simultaneously asking him to develop the trust that you have in him. Because the more you trust him, the more you're going to be okay when your plans don't come through. The more you're going to be okay when something that you really wanted doesn't happen, because ultimately you know God's plan is best, and it is every single time. I think too, sometimes we're like, okay, well, I'm developing quiet time. I'm trying to do all the things you're talking about, but I still don't feel like I'm hearing the right answer. Sometimes I feel like God withholds an answer because it's not the time. So I've even had to walk through a season of, okay, I need to surrender my need to know. I need to surrender my need to know about whatever it is I'm so deeply wanting answers about, and just be present in the day he's given me. What has he given me today? What job do I have right now? What can I do right now to develop my gifting or the things that I feel like he's calling me to do? What can I do today? Maybe it's writing one page in the book he's calling you to write. Maybe it's showing up to work with a great attitude and being like, Lord, I trust you. I know that you know I don't like this job, but you will bring me out when it's the right time. And it's actively putting your trust back in his hands with the life that he's given you today. And that's what it means to handle well what he's given you, and to cultivate and develop yourself in the present moment and being present in what is, because he prepares you in the present moment for where you're going, and he prepares you now for the purpose that you're going to live out in the future. So if you're someone who is craving those answers, I would just encourage you to surrender it and be like, Lord, okay, I know I don't have these answers yet, but help me to give them to you. Help me to just maintain well what you've given me, and help me to develop more trust that you will show me the right way, will give me the right answer in the right time. Today's verse also reminds me that we should make our own plans. We should dream and think about things that we want to do and tell God everything on our heart, because that's how we're going to feel like it's a two-way street. That's how it's collaborating with God. We have free will, right? We have choices we can make. We get to dream and get creative and explore, which is ultimately us doing it with God. But it feels like a two-way street the more you actively give God all of your plans. And then it's just, okay, I've given him my plans. Let's just see what happens. And I trust you, Lord. Whatever you want will happen. So I would challenge you guys to go deeper when it comes to giving God all of your plans, putting all of your plans in his hands, because then it's you also actively trusting him with your entire life. And at the same time, ask him to help you be more present in each moment, because then you're going to hear what his answer is. You're going to start to hear him more clearly. The Lord will give you the right answer, and you'll be able to pay attention to what that is. Okay?